Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And your life coach is back. Dan Clark is here, and we're going to help you navigate your life and change your mindset for more positivity and just a better life in general. We're going to transform your life. That's what we're going to do. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Oh my gosh, it's great to see you again, Steve. Good to be with you.
You too. I always love when we get together. You go layers deeper than a lot of other people and get to the core of how we all operate. And it's all about emotion. And even before we dig in, and by the way, your website, give your website out in case somebody's watching, listening, and just kind of curious more about you.
Well, thank you. It's transformedlife.net. And I want to mention that on that website, there's a tab out there that says 2-minute podcast. I do a 2-minute daily podcast, which I really would love everyone to take the opportunity to listen to that. You can subscribe to it right there. It's just a wonderful thing. It's about 2 minutes, not very long. You can get a text or just listen to it directly.
Excellent. And today we're going to talk about why you would hire a life coach.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that.
Well, it's kind of interesting how someone shows up in my world, and typically there's something going on that they're not really happy with, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But usually pretty soon we get into what really is happening on the inside of them. For the most part, individuals, and I'm the same way and you are the same way, we think life's kind of going along and we don't really want to get the car fixed until we have to, right? But we don't really do maintenance on ourselves because we don't really know how or what that's about. And so life coaching is really about maintenance also. It's about learning how to have clarity and purpose and understanding how to have markers and weekly and monthly markers about how well you're doing and understanding how you can create every single area of your life. And I work on specifically about sometimes 12, sometimes only 8, but there's 5 major ones that we work on. So why would you come to life coaching? Because life isn't really as successful as you want to be. And as you're working toward those goals, we work on the emotional being so that you have the happiest, healthiest brain in every single area of your life.
So those 5 items that you mentioned, Dan, what are they?
Well, their life partner, that's always an important piece of that. And family is the second one. And those are 2 things that I hit quite heavily. The other one is our health, our character, our life goals, and our visions. That's actually 6. And life goals and life visions are 2 different things. If we don't have a life purpose and a life goal, then we're really not going to do well with the basic things in life.
When you say life goal, can you define that?
Yes. Life goal would be like, I want to be able to, have a business that I can sustain for my family. And this is the kind of character that I want to have. And this is the kind of relationship I want to have with people that are around me. It's a holistic goal. Life vision is how I want to look back at my life and what I've accomplished. Like have I left something behind me that will sustain without me? And have I made an impact on the world? And are those that are going to think about me after I'm gone feel like I really impacted their lives and or the world that I live in?
And when we say life goals, would that also include personal goals? Is it life in general? Like you gave an example of business. Is it everything?
Well, it can be everything. And life goals are individualistic. But one of the reasons that I don't focus too much on some specific life goals or small life goals, because like, for example, I have a routine and I keep track of my routine every day and I do certain things every morning and I practice those goals. And those are small goals. But what I'm talking about is big goals, something that you want to accomplish and get your mind wrapped around. They're going to be like life-changing goals, because just accomplishing goals doesn't really give us the feeling of being alive. Feeling alive means that I have as many unhappy as I do happy emotions. And so helping someone understand that accomplishing life goals is learning how to work through the disappointments and the difficulties that show up and not be debilitated by them. Like guilt and shame is a huge issue for everyone. And as we talked about 2 weeks ago, procrastination, or maybe 3 weeks ago, is based on my emotions of shame and guilt. And helping someone work through that helps them accomplish whatever their life goals are that they have.
And we did touch upon when you want to feel alive. And I think you had asked the question, how do you know that you're alive? How do you know that you're thriving, you're moving along? And invariably, most of us are going to say, yeah, well, it's when I spend time with a special person, or if I go, take a drive somewhere that I really like being, by the beach or whatever. But that wasn't the right answer necessarily. It's when you feel pain, when you feel hurt, all of those things mixed together is you feeling alive.
Yeah, aliveness is living life. It doesn't matter what shows up, but you're not afraid of the unknown, and you can deal with or handle or process or be with or be present in every single thing that shows up. That's actually being alive.
Yep. So the mindset of these 5 or 6 items How do we get into that? How do we navigate those, when it comes to family, health, the life goals, the character?
Well, it's really about where that person wants to be in many respects. Now, I like the one on character because when you think about the world structure that we have right now, having a moral construct, the ability, well, first of all, let's define morality for a moment. When I was growing up, morality was is that this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. And that's kind of okay a little bit, but I like this definition really well. And Daniel Seligman gave this to me in a book. I don't remember the name of the book. What he said was this. He said that morality is where I will never intentionally harm you. Morality is where I don't do something to harm you intentionally. Now, there's real harm and there's perceived harm. If I offend you, that's not morality, right? Morality is where I intentionally harm you. I never intentionally want to harm you. If we can use that as a foundation, understanding about how we want to behave in character, that frees us up to do things that I want to do that they may harm you because you're choosing to allow them to harm you, but it's not real harm.
I love that. And I go by, it's kind of the same thing. Do the right thing. Just whatever it is, just do the right thing.
Exactly. Now, there's a little bit of balance in there when you're in a relationship about something that they might not like. But again, that's not about morality. Morality is living above things. And, I was reading earlier in the week about how men and women who are truly successful don't gossip. Talking about a story. And when you're telling a story, now I work on this really hard with people who love to talk because they love to tell all the details. And I help them understand that as a business person, and even in any type of relationship, if you can keep the story to just the basic details, you really remove the emotions that have nothing to do with the story, because the story and the details create drama, which bring to you always emotions that are very unproductive. So in learning how to be in character, or how to be the kind of person that you want to be in healthy thinking about talking about stories and relating to someone, is you're just very basic in the story details, because the details create the drama.
Yep. And in a business world, not a good thing.
It isn't a good thing. I'm working with a couple of salespeople, and one of the things we're working with them is to be honest, and that's the thing that's sometimes difficult. This young man I'm working with is really good at what he does. He's got 13 people that works under him as an assistant, and he catches himself often stretching the truth about how he does things. And so we're working on that character so he can be more true to who he really wants to be. And that's this distance. It's called cognitive dissonance, which means you have two opposing thoughts. Like, I don't really want to do this, but I need to do this so I can survive. But if we can be consistent or congruent on the inside, that creates such joy. And that's another one of the things about social and emotional wellness. If we are always the same person, no matter whether we're in public or private, it really creates this internal character that is outstanding.
Yeah. It's almost like maybe I can say moral compass. It's who you are. You're in. Yeah. And so question for you, when we're talking in a business situation, let's say that you work with some people in business connected, where you're closer to them. It's almost like you share personal things. It's a more of a friendship and a business relationship at the same time. Is it okay at that point to share some more details? Dare I say gossip, that kind of thing?
No.
Okay. All right.
It's really not. And here's why. Because there's a fine line between personal relationships and business relationships. And that's when we get into trouble. Now, I'm not saying you can't have really close friends that you work with, and you can, but the boundaries are that there's some things that need to stay separate so you can stay healthy. When you're in business with someone who's a really close friend, you have to have a line between when you're talking about business and when you're talking about personal. That's why when you're in a contractual business, well, particularly if you're business owners and your partners, that's a very fine line. And you have to be able to demonstrate great character to not mix the two. Because when you start feeling harmed by your partner, it's like a personal, intimate relationship, and you have to learn how to work through that, right? Now, that's what we do all the time, helping someone how to survive that. But it goes to a deeper level, because when you're talking about money involved in a partnership, it's really more problematic. So it's really good that you understand the boundaries of how to and what not to share.
Been down that road before. I partnered with somebody a number of years ago, and the person who I worked with wasn't who I thought they really were. And some of those things started coming out. And, they knew personal stuff about me. Same thing for them. It didn't really impact our relationship, but just you got to draw that line. And the other, thing I say is take the high road.
Well,
Take the high
those,
road.
those things are hard to recover from, though, Steve, because they
Yeah.
hurt so much. And again, that's this process of understanding that when you get hurt like that, it isn't about you being hurt by that person. It's understanding that you're hurt because something happened on the inside of you, and you need to process that without them. And then you can solve the conflict with them, because most of us want them to stop behaving so we feel better. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't stop doing what they're doing because it's not beneficial for the relationship, but understanding that your emotions are your own is the most powerful process of becoming a truly healthy individual.
That situation was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me because I moved past it. I learned from it. I learned from him and then did my own thing without him. So it turned out to be fantastic. It
Well,
really did.
let's go back to life goals and life vision.
Sure.
When I'm working with my own life vision and my own life goals, this particular week, I had some things happen in my world where I had kind of gotten off track on some things that I was working with, and had some serious conversations with some individuals in my world where I was helping them understand that I had moved away from some things I had set in place a couple of years ago because of things that are going on in my personal world. And I was kind of redirecting myself, getting back on track. That's really hard, because when you are trying to make life about you at some point, because it's really what life is about, the other person doesn't want that. They don't like that. And their dislike creates drama or difficulties. And when someone is wanting you to be something that you don't want to be, that difficulty is really hard. And that's part of what social and emotional intelligence is. That's part of what we work with, is helping understand to not be influenced by those that are close to you when it's counterproductive for what you want out of life. We have so much of that going on in our world now.
Dan, how do you handle it? And by the way, we're talking with Coach Dan Clark, transformedlife.net, if you want to learn more about him and even see some of the things that we're talking about here. Dan, if you're in a situation, let's say you have a friend or a number of friends, and they're checking in on you. Let's say you got something going on in your life, and they're, hey, how's it going? Or what's the latest? How do you handle that? You want to update them. Oh, go ahead.
Never say I'm fine. That is the worst thing you can say.
I 100%
When someone says that
agree.
to me, I'm like, no.
Yeah, no. And those are the worst, And what is fine? Fine is just a placeholder word. It's horrible.
Yeah. Or I'm good. Yeah. No.
No.
I have a couple men I meet with regularly, not as often as I would like to. And I love these guys with everything on the inside of me, and they know my truth. What that means is that they know enough about me that I really can't get away with anything, right? So I'm very transparent with them. You have to have someone to talk about your truth with. Now, again, it's not about telling the story about the drama, but they know enough about me that they know that I am going to tell them what's truly happening on the inside of me. When you think about that type of relationship, that's truly heartwarming, because you get to be authentic and congruent. You get to be the same person inside as you are the outside, and you're not faking it at all. And having someone love you and put that resonance back towards you because you're able to be that with them, and they're you with them, there's nothing like that in the world. And one of the reasons that that's important, and this is one of the things we definitely work on, like when you work with me, I'm going to ask you, who are your closest friends and what do they know about you? Because your ability to be transparent, now, there's maybe a little bit of barrier here, but your willingness to be transparent about who you really are is endearing to your own heart.
Yep. If you were to ask my friends what they know about me, they know everything. I got this no
I
block.
believe that.
Yeah.
I would believe that is true about you. I would.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I have one friend, I've known her since I was 18. She happens to be a therapist, and she'll check in every once in a while, and she asks those questions. How are you feeling? Not give me the drama update, which invariably kind of adds, that'll come with the text. But it's those people. And it's so important that they know about you. Because you know what, if you don't tell them, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Right?
Well, here's something that I ask someone a little bit different than how you're feeling. I'm going to ask them, how are they behaving, and what is their personal self-concept of how they're behaving? Because their behavior are they behaving hiding their emotions? Or are they behaving with their emotions? I mean, how are they over the top? Are they learning how to manage their emotions? I mean, how you feel is super important, but it's about how you feel about yourself, but it's all related to how you're behaving in your world. Are you being authentic?
Yep. So I have a question for you. I'm going to turn, if it's okay with you, I'm going to turn the card just a little bit here. As a life coach, I'm curious about your habits.
Oh,
So,
well,
like you wake up in the morning, your daily habits. You just talked before about some of the things that you do.
well, I'll do 35 or 40 one-on-ones in a week when I'm super busy. And I don't work on Friday, Saturday. So on Friday morning, I do my best to just do nothing for a couple of hours because I got to rest my brain. During the week, when I'm working hard, I'll spend an hour in the morning. I'll get up in the morning and do almost literally nothing. Never look at my phone until after 11 o'clock. I might look at my schedule because I text my clients in the morning to make sure that they're coming to kind of connect with them, look at my schedule a little bit, but I do very, very little because I want to be in charge of how my brain is functioning. So there's three things that I consistently do. One is that I do a little bit of journaling. I'll be writing a little bit about my day. Two, I'll listen to something that's uplifting, or read a book, something that's got some energy on the inside of it. And third is I do some form of lightweight exercise or stretching or kind of getting my body in place. And those are the three things. It's the 20-20-20 rule. And there's a lot of different people that do that in different ways. But in that time frame, do not bother me. I want to be alone. I want to make sure I'm with myself. I'm really into what I'm doing because in my brain structure, I have to have a lot of space to be really doing some intentional one-on-one.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dan Clark bandwidth that you have, and I can totally understand. Like, you need to shut it off for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I start my day that way. Thank you for asking, by the way.
Yeah, just kind of curious. Like I wonder about the habits of people who are successful and how they navigate their day. And as a life coach, and exercise is so important. I came from the gym, full disclosure. But psychologically, it's not even about, physically, psychologically, when you leave after doing some kind of exercise, unless you do it, you're not going to know. So for everybody who says, I don't want to exercise, I can't do that, try it.
So let me add one more thing to that though, Steve, is that I will do a meditation before I start that routine. So like this morning, I did a 45 meditation where I'm really focusing on the inside of me. It's a guided meditation. And I separate that just a little bit because the guided meditation isn't really part of my morning routine because I have a very fluid way of doing meditations. I mean, sometimes I do a lot of them, sometimes do a little bit. Like last weekend, I did a couple of 3 and 4 hour meditations on the weekend. So meditation is real important to me, but it's not as important as those 20 minutes or those 20 minutes in the morning.
Wow. So final question on your routine with the meditation. What's your secret? What works for you?
In meditation?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's not a super easy question. I love Joe Dispenza. I love Kyle Cease. Headspace, as you mentioned before, is really great. Mm-hmm. You need to find something that fits you really, really well.
Yeah.
I love going deep inside myself when I'm meditating. It's just real important that I connect with that deeper self.
I don't know if I shared this with you, but I have a friend, and I've tried this before, where when they want to meditate, they pretend that they're pushing a button on an elevator, and in their mind, the elevator goes down to the beach and opens up, and they walk out onto the sand, and now they're in their state where they want to be, and then they get back in the elevator, go back up, and it's all in your mind.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's fantastic.
Isn't it? Like you transported yourself. Yeah. It's something totally different. And when you close your eyes, you can see the visual of the elevator going down. It opens up to a beach, and then you walk out, and now you're in your zone, your meditation zone, I guess.
Well, most people don't know that meditation is about trying to practice slowing down your frontal lobe so that, right before you fall asleep, you actually shut this down. And in order to truly meditate, if you can slow this down enough to where you're hearing your deeper voice, you have 2 voices. When you're in that part of your brain, most of us don't know how to listen to our heart. And really the majority of this work is learning how to listen to that part of you.
Yeah.
And so when you're feeling your emotions, you're listening to that part of you.
Can I ask another question based on what you just said?
Sure.
Okay. That part of you, your intuition, your gut feeling. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, unfortunately, often we think that it's our gut or our intuition when really it's our brain talking to us. That's why if you don't practice meditation, you'll make more mistakes on listening to your heart. But what is true is when you're really, really sad or you're really, really angry, that's the most important time to truly listen to your heart because everything's out of the way and you can really hear. Now, often we don't want to be there, correct? But when you're in a lot of difficulties, get in that part of your heart and listen to what it's saying. There's a website called HeartMath, and you really should check it out. HeartMath.com. It's MATH. And they talk about how the heart-brain connection And what that is that when you slow your thinking down and you just sit quietly, like I'll sit on my back porch, have a couple of puppy dogs, little beagles, and I'll be back there just resting and looking at the trees and the forest of stuff that's behind me, and just slow my heart rate down and think about my heart. And as I start thinking about my heart, I let it talk to me. I let it tell me. And what our heart tells us is not about life goals. Our heart tells us about how beautiful you are and how wonderful and nurturing and kind you are and how gentle you can be and how you're doing so well and how much it loves who you're becoming, and it nurtures that side of you. If we don't learn how to nurture ourselves with language like that, it becomes difficult to be out here.
I love that. I can't wait to see my dog Tanner later.
Yeah. And, nurturing means that you slow your thinking down and you're with yourself. Someone who's healthy, they are able to they're able to understand, or to need rather, time alone. Time alone is so important.
Question for you based on what you just said. So when you're, let's say, sad or angry, and that's when you're totally in tune with your heart or your gut, are the things you're asking your gut or listening for the intuition or that message, are they about why you were sad and angry, or that's just that's getting you into that particular space where you can get that information?
It's getting into the space where you recognize that there's something that got you there, right? For example, when you get into that space and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad because I'm not letting go of this. I'm so angry because that happened. Once you're aware of those things, then again, it becomes more about what you need to do about that. But I want to talk about a principle which is fascinating to me about how this works. Now, I just talked about stories and not telling the story with drama, but unexpressed words have energy inside them. And when you don't talk about what you're experiencing, especially when you've been sad or when you've been angry, those words, that energy is still inside you. So it's called the 10-minute rule. So if you're really struggling, find someone that you can talk to for 10 minutes and you talk about everything that you can think of about yourself for 10 minutes. They cannot talk back to you. They cannot give you feedback or talk about themselves. And there's space after that. It's fascinating how that works. Now, when I'm driving, sometimes if I'm struggling, I'll talk out loud to myself for 10 minutes because I know that works really well. When you do exercise, it's a 10-minute rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do exercise because our brain's a muscle. And what this 10-minute exercise does is you're talking about you. It drops you farther and farther down inside your heart, and it gets rid of that old or that energy in the moment. It's very powerful. Now, you're not talking about the drama. You're talking about you.
So when you're talking about you, it's your feeling, your emotion. Is that
everything? It's details. I didn't like the way this happened. Don't like how I behaved. Don't like how I feel about myself. Or this happened because it made me feel like I'm a silly person, right? And it's called flowing with aliveness and truth. I mean, you're just talking loudly and moving this energy outside of you. It's kind of like taking an emotional bath. If you don't talk, most people don't talk about themselves. They talk about what happened.
Yes.
No. You.
It's so true, though. Why? Because we focus on details. We said that before. You're looking chronologically. This happened, then that happened, then this happened, but then you forget about the feelings that happen with that.
Well, we're other person centered, Steve. It means we're thinking about them, right? And so if we can become our self-centered, now not selfishness, but thinking about my emotions are inside me. Got to talk about me more often.
We always get real deep in things, but you know what? They all make sense. I love it. And just, you back up what we should be doing, like even driving in your car, turn things down for a moment and think, talk to yourself. It's okay. Talk to a higher being if that's going to help you, whatever works.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And a relationship with God is so important. That's what your heart is, by the way. That energy that's inside you is your God heart.
Interesting. So we have a couple of more minutes left. Anything else to share on the 5 or 6 principles that we started with the mindset?
Yes, because I talked about this before, and I think it's something that we should captivate on. And that is the fact that your ability to connect with someone that you're close to. Now, this is a fascinating rule. We need to have same-sex relationships for us to really be healthy. And you know how problematic sometimes that is in relationships, right? Because it feels like, whatever that stuff is, we're taking away from the relationship. But your ability to communicate with someone who is the same sex as you, male or female, brain structure, it really opens up the internal part of you, because safety there is so powerful in creating who you are. If we don't feel safe in a relationship, we can't really be ourselves. Safe means that there isn't anything that I haven't said to someone about what's on the bottom or in the base of my heart, way down in here. If you're able to tell someone at least one time everything you've ever experienced or thought or had done to you or said or seen, that energy is still on the inside of you. And that practice of being with someone, now it's not really easy sometimes to do with the opposite sex because funny things happen. So if you do that with the same sex individual, it completely transforms how you are going to be in the intimate relationship that you're in, because you get to that place of feeling safe. That's why parenting is so important in how we structure, how we spend time with children. One of the aspects of life that I work with, and even though I'm not great at parenting, is if someone wants to work with parenting, we bring a bunch of material in and we talk about how they are experiencing how they're parenting so that they can not be influenced by the way they were parented to be a great parent.
Yep. I want to be a better parent. And with your help, some of the things that you've said in the past when we've gotten together, I've shared with my kids. And I think I shared that with you. It made a difference in the way just I presented things. All the more reason why we need a life coach.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Yeah. I think we're just about out of time. Tell everybody they want to hook up with you. They want to learn more. What do they do?
Well, I'd love to coach you. Just give me, there's a couple of spots. There's little tags on my website. Just give me a call or set an appointment with me anyway. It's transformlife.net. I would love to visit with you. Also, I have a 2-minute podcast that I do every day. That would be beautiful if you spend some time listening to that. I spend a bunch of energy in that. It's one of the most heartfelt things I've ever done.
The amount of detail that you give out is just amazing. And now I can see why you need to take that time to yourself occasionally. And I think that translates to everybody else. You'd be a better person for it.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, Dan, great having you on again. Next time we'll get together. I think we're talking about maybe doing an hour next time.
We have an hour next week. Yes, I am so looking forward. I have an agenda already, been working on that today. So we'll have lots to talk about.
And you know what that means?
Oh.
It means that I'm going to have to meditate before that. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff then. Transformlife.net, Dan Clark, life coach. Look forward to talking to you again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. And we will be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.